एक भले आदमी ने मुझसे कहा था कि मौत की तैयारी पैदा होते ही शुरू हो जाती है.
Hi Saif, welcome to the Quint.
Thanks.
I've seen all the three trailers of Laal Kaptaan,
Ji.
The three chapters as they are called, and it's quite intriguing, especially your character. Now I'll tell you what we could gauge from what we saw, and then you can tell me what you can reveal more about the character. One, he's a man on a mission. It's a period setting. He's got this British uniform on. He's looking out for revenge. And he's got a lot of gyan about time and death. What else can you tell us?
Well, it's like India's first Western.
Okay.
And now earlier we've seen Westerns, we've nodded at the genre when we've done Sholay and, there's been some bad ones with...
There was something called Joshile with Sunny
Yeah.
Deol and Anil Kapoor, which Shekhar Kapoor had
Yeah,
directed. Apparently.
I haven't seen Joshile, but there's been attempts constantly because of the romance of location and horses and story and buddy movie and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, for some reason, until now, it's not been convincing or proper, and I don't even know if this will work. It's only now that someone's come out and made like a Western. Thematically, it's about a guy who kind of rides into town. You don't know anything about him. He's a good guy, bad guy. Sounds like pretty mercenaries after money and this, that, but then it turns out there's a darker purpose and there's something more serious to it, and it's usually revenge. And there's a certain type of genre of Western which also touches on the supernatural. So this character is like an Indian superhero. It's like someone, but it's not far-fetched in the sense that he's a Naga Sadhu, but he's a failed Naga Sadhu because he can't get over the idea of revenge. So that's not detachment. But at the core of it, it's this kind of action revenge drama, set in, the anarchy, as William Dalrymple calls it, of 18th century India, which is where the Mughal Empire is fragmenting and collapsing, and different pockets of principalities have power, shifting power, power today, gone tomorrow. It's got all the elements. It's got gold and treasure, and it's like a chase, and he's got to get there before this guy. But who is this guy, and what does he want? So in that sense, it's the first Western that we've done, Indian Western, and I'm just really excited I was part of it.
Okay, now the whole Naga Sadhu look evoked a lot of interest. Now, was that completely something that came from Navdeep, or as an actor, do you also have your inputs to what
Nothing.
you can? Because I still remember the little pinky that Langda Tyagi had in Omkara.
Was that me who came up with that? I
don't
remember.
know.
I think it must have been Vishal.
Okay.
But this is completely the director. All these things are director's things.
The dreadlocks.
I might have, it's all Navdeep. I might have suggested wearing a bandana because in action, when you move around, it kind of supports the thing. That's, I think, could have been my only contribution. It took so long to put the props on this guy. Like at one point, they put me on a horse. There was some close-up or some shot we were doing of kind of riding into town when he's wounded. So there's blood, and then these flies would come. And then they put a dagger and a gun and a sword and this and that, and I was like almost falling off the horse. I couldn't. And Gary Oldman gave an interview when he did Dracula that sometimes the costume wears you, if you're not careful in these. And that's what happened to me. So the costume was wearing me, and I could barely open my eyes. And then there's the sun, and then you have to say these lines on a horse. So it was like a joke. I said, it's not. I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's possible, but we did it. Yeah. There's a different grade of acting required to do a Western because you've got to be on a horse while you're doing it and not galloping or talking, but just moving a little left, moving a little right.
Right.
Or left, right, sorry.
From the trailer, it appears to be a film like none other that we've seen in the Indian cinema space. Now, that could go in two different ways.
Yeah.
Now, looking at your career right now, do you think that's a rather bold choice to make rather than go for something probably a little more safer?
I don't know. It's just that some things are too tempting. Some things are too tempting. Just this, and this was a pain in the ass, it wasn't a normal film.
Yeah, the way you're describing it.
I'm getting tired thinking about it. All I could do in Rajasthan, luckily there were some nice places to stay and some lovely people, amazing hosts looking after us, but it was exhausting on every level, and all I could think of on the outdoor was Chinese food and whiskey. I said, that's the way I'm going to reward myself, with a 30-year-old Glenfiddich, which is the nicest whiskey. I love historical, I love revenge dramas. I love the idea of this kind of mystery character with a twist at the end. So it's got all those elements. You know, this is what commercial movies in my head should be. But I might be wrong.
Saif, you're starting, in a way, your second innings as a producer with Black Knight
Yeah.
films. Any learnings from your first phase, or are you just going to go with your gut feeling now?
I don't know. I don't know how genuinely interested I am. How genuinely interested I am in production. Actually, to be honest, at one point I was doing it, and I'll still do it to kind of look after my own career, and get something written for me that's kind of nice for me. But whether I'm genuinely interested, maybe, but I don't know. Actually, frankly, right now I'm more interested in acting.
All right.
And because I can act, and I mean it's something I'm being offered, and I'm excited about that, and being part of different projects. It's a different energy to actually start reading scripts and thinking which film should I make for this guy, and how will that be. I don't want to get into that space yet, really, actually. So I think I've learned that maybe I shouldn't do it. Yeah.
Now, the last time we met was on the sets of Sacred Games. There's a perception, because there's no box office collection to look at, that Sacred Games was received probably not as much as the first season did. Did you get that kind of feedback? What was your...
Yeah. Yeah, this is phrased like a gentleman. But the first season was outstanding. It was like some of the best things that we ever had.
Right.
It's got nominated for an Emmy.
Yeah.
It's a proper show. Second season was a bit of a letdown. So I was wondering why it's called Sacred Games. And it's because there's that guru in it. now I know. So, I mean, I'm joking about it. I think people lost a bit of connect there. I think they wanted a down and dirty mafia show about someone like Gaitonde with a little bit of a twist with his love stories and like a really nice Kashyap Motwani kind of mix on what it was. And Karan Johar really is like the witch oracle, you know, because he said in an interview with me, he said, someone with Netflix said, is there anything you want to tell us that we should learn? He's like, beware of the second season curse. And I said, you know, what are you talking about? Because our second season is brilliant. And he's like, well, you know, often it's not.
Okay.
And he's absolutely right. So that's the thing. I don't know why, but it kind of meandered off.
Right.
And the climax, I don't know if it worked.
Right.
And certain things weren't tied up the way it should be. So it was a little disappointing in that sense, but we'll have to ask them why. Maybe it was just all too much, a little overwhelmed with the amount they had to do or whatever. But anyway, the first season was really good.
Yeah, it was.
So I think overall it was great.
That's true.